Greetings and welcome aboard to the Heavy Metal Truckers. We are your hosts. I am Pincushion, that is Doppler, and that is Frosty. And in this video, we are checking out and reviewing the latest album from Trivax. Not Blood Dynasty, that was Arch Enemy. This is the Great Satan.
Yes.
And from there, take it away.
You want to go first? You want me to go first?
I'll let you go.
All right, I'll go first. So, out of the three albums we're reviewing, this was the one I was most looking forward to. Because I remember we discovered these guys, what was it, 21, 22, somewhere 21? I don't know, 21.
I'll let you know. Continue on.
And then we reviewed the previous album.
Aloha Burns Out.
Aloha Burns Out, yep. Which we both absolutely loved. It was a fantastic album.
We got to get Frosty's perspective on that one, because holy shit.
Especially depending on what he thought for this one, but that album was almost 2 years ago now. And then we came to this one, so I was really excited for this
one. A year ago.
What was a year ago?
Trivax, whenever they released Azrael, and we listened to that single and we were impressed by it.
Yeah, I remember the single.
Yeah, the album. The album was released about 2 or 3 years ago.
Yeah, I think it was sometime. It was about 2 years ago. Yeah, but I remember doing they had another song they put out since then called "Against All Oppression" or something like that. I don't remember what it's called. So I was really looking forward to this album because the previous album was absolutely fantastic. So listen to this album. And like a lot of their stuff, there was a lot of anger in this album. One thing about him, and I think I might even have said this in the previous album, is he has a really good way of, you can feel that anger in his vocals, which
he's bigly influenced by Eric of Watain, which Eric is very just unrelenting.
Yeah, and not only that, he's also making music and singing about things that are important to him and his beliefs and his life and all that. So
exactly, which
you can sense it.
Yeah, you definitely can.
And I've said before, it's not as easy to emote doing harsh words as it is clean.
Doing it safely is the biggest problem.
Yeah. It's hard to do, but he does, like, you can feel it in the music. And
he is a performer.
Yeah, he is. And he's very good at what he does. One thing I like about these guys is not only that, but you can also just listening to the music and going through it is just the creativity that these guys got, or whoever is the one putting all the music together. You can tell that they're not just taking stuff and throwing it together because they think it sounds cool. They actually put thought behind each thing that they're doing in the music. And you also get the sense that they don't care. You really get the sense that they don't really care what other people think.
Oh yeah.
That they're
well, and that's the same way with Behemoth as well.
Yeah, that I don't know the term I'm looking for, but they're
liberated.
Yeah, and they're not they especially when it comes to creativity, they're going to do what they want to do. You get the sense that they don't really hold back, or they don't like to be held back, or however you want to put it. And it's refreshing is when you get bands that are like that. And
they're not bound by a particular circle.
Right. And you can feel that in their music too. And it's very refreshing, and this album, I don't know if I'd quite put it to the level of the previous album, but it's not. It's close. For me, like I feel like it felt like it was a very solid follow up. The music again, like basically everything I just said before. Like the creativity, the fact that you can sense that they don't they're whoever their record label is clearly isn't. You don't get the sense that their record label's controlling what they do.
Yeah.
Which is unusual with a band that's not huge. A lot of these smaller bands don't get that luxury.
Well, as long as they're able to sell records, the label is not really going to care.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. A lot of these smaller records aren't bringing in the money that the big ones are. Now, that being said, these guys deserve to be bringing in huge record sales. Like, they are a band that deserves far more recognition than they have currently. Hopefully they'll get it in time because they deserve it. They're incredibly talented. And to me, this album was no different from that. From beginning to end, there wasn't a bad song on it. I didn't necessarily have a favorite, but there wasn't a bad song on it. So for me, I gave this album an 8.25. One, if I saw it in the store and I had the money, I'd pick it up. Like I said, I probably put it a slight step below their previous album, but it's still a phenomenal album. It's still exactly what I would hope to get from these guys.
You, sir?
So I first heard of Trivax. I want to say probably when you guys did one of your reviews on it on the channel. Didn't listen to them, but I definitely heard of them back then. This is the first time listening to them. I'm not like a guy who listens to albums from beginning to end. I'm usually I'll pick and choose and I'll listen to a single or this, that, and a third, and that's what happens for me. However, on this channel I keep listening to the albums in their entirety, kind of
Are you
getting
exhausted?
out of my own. I'm always exhausted. Are you kidding me?
It's more exhausting, to your ears.
Oh no! It's not exhausting to listen to. It's just
think of it as nine different singles.
I mean, I'm trying to step out of my comfort zone and adventure more, I guess. So it's nice to, because I wouldn't go and, oh, Trivax, let's go and listen to them and see what happens. I heard of them once, or what was the group that we listened to? Captain Goat was the song. Avatar, yeah. I wouldn't immediately just go, oh my god, let's listen to the album. It's just, I listen to what intrigues me, and that's kind of how it's always been for me. So doing all these reviews on albums on the channel is definitely taking me out of my wheelhouse, and it's for damn sure different. However, I'm intrigued to see what happens from it, because it's me actually going and actively listening to something, giving my playlists or whatever extra different tones and vibes to it that I'm not used to or something. With Trivax, it's definitely a little bit different than what I'm used to listening to. Just a little bit. I mean, it's still within the metal community, but it's just a little different. I actually enjoyed the album for the most part. The first time I listened to the album, I was kind of focused on what I was doing at the time. I was kind of dealing with some stuff, so I didn't fully get to 100% pay attention to the album. It was kind of just on in background noise, so I had to go back and listen to it a second time to be able to give any sort of an opinion. But like the second time I listened to it, I'm actually like trying to pay attention to it. I'm trying to do this, that, and the third. And like there were a few songs on there that really stuck out to me. I can't remember the one that I really enjoyed. I think it was like the fourth or the fifth track on the album. Might have been the third. I cannot remember what the name of. But yeah, no, that one really stuck out to me.
Here Comes the Flood? Or Lolly?
No,
I'm looking for track.
I'm not sure. I'm honestly not sure. I have it saved somewhere. It's just trying to figure out where. Damon's Melancholia.
Oh, that's
Demon's Melancholia or whatever it is.
That's the sixth one on the album. It's a little more than halfway through.
Somewhere in the center of the album. Yeah, no, that one definitely stuck out to me. Definitely, I would definitely go and listen to more Trivax in the future after listening to this album. Definitely would. As far as like a rating on the album would be concerned, I'd probably say like a 7.75, somewhere around there. Like I said, it's different metal than I'm used to listening to, but it also has like aspects of it that, you know, are pleasing to the ears. So,
all right.
Yeah, 10 minutes, sir.
So, I first discovered Trivax about 2 years ago whenever I was at work, and I typically have just stuff playing in the background to enjoy while I'm working. And I came across the thumbnail of what looked like a little man wearing a deer skull or something of the sort. And I'm like, that seems evil. I like it. Let's watch it. And it turns out it turned out to be Trivax Azrael. And let me just say, holy shit. Out of all the modern stuff that's been out recently, or especially at that time, they sounded like the old school behemoth. I'm talking Demigod, Evangelion era, some Zilski occultists, and I'm like, holy fuck. But they were also as more so theatrically like dark as Watain, and I'm like, holy shit. And some of their material sounded like were along the lines of Watain. Hell, I later learned that Cheyenne is very influenced by Watain and has had the pleasure of having Eric in an interview. So whenever I listen to A Loa Burns Out, their full album, I'm like, God damn, this is one of the most amazing albums I've heard in a long time when it comes to black and death metal. And then The Great Satan came out, and I'm like, nice. Came out with some new material. Let's take a listen. And I remember listening to it, and for one of the biggest pros is that this thing has one of the best build-ups, just that nice dark tribal drumming going on, and then Cheyenne's vocals in his native language just going through and speaking, and then the impact, or lack thereof. Where the fuck is the low end? My biggest con on this album is there is a lack of low end, and it feels thin. This is like, once it hit, there was nothing to it. And I'm like, what the fuck is this? And I'm like, okay, let's continue on. Still, they're doing good. They're being relentless. They're doing their thing, and vocals are solid, but still, it's thin. In comparison to Loa Burns Out, what the hell happened? And then to Liberation and Beyond, I'm like, okay, still thin, kind of odd, doing their solid, great guitar work, the drums were amazing in this album, like some of the most natural drums that I've heard within the black metal or black and death metal area, like absolutely amazing. But then I started noticing Cheyenne's vocals are a little buried, and I'm like, I don't remember him being this indistinguishable before. And I mean, obviously, this is black and death metal, so vocals can be a little indistinguishable, but I'm like, I could have sworn I've heard vocals that were more pronounced than this, but maybe it's just me. So I continue listening on, and Lawless Eternal comes on. Lawless Eternal is just this nice, beautiful trance-inducing instrumental almost. And it ends, and it goes into Here Comes the Flood, where they have gone completely away from Black and Death. And they are now in some kind of cleaned up, I don't know what it is. Been listening to it, still don't know what the fuck's going on. The Great Satan comes on. Interesting. But still some of that same, just they've cleaned it up, and where's the aggression? What the fuck's happened? And then Damon's Melancholy comes on, and this was the epitome of what the fuck am I listening to? I was actually about to just stop the album because I know, having heard the Loa Burns Out before this, they were unrelenting, they were just maniacal, and this, the fuck happened? And so I'm like, you know what, just keep on, finish the album. And it finished off nicely. It did finish off well. But I'm like, what? Maybe it's just me. So I go back and listen to a Lowell Burns Out, and it just caves in at me, and I'm just like, dude, they fucked up the production on this album. Big time. There's no low end. Cheyenne's vocals were way better mixed than the Lowell Burns Out. I could clearly understand him. Guitars got some nice distortion going on to complement the bass and everything. I go back and I listen to this album, I'm like, wow, they fucked up the production. At least from being from a mixing engineer standpoint, and being able to pull groups up to their fullest potential. I don't know what happened, and then later on I discovered that Cheyenne had posted a video of doing a playthrough, and I'm like, well, let me hear this playthrough just without the instrumentals, or maybe there will be instrumentals, but no, it was him on acoustic, and I'm like, huh? So whenever I listened to it, I realized that he was inspired by some flamenco or Spanish inspired guitar stylings, and he included this within the album, but distorted, or slightly distorted, and I'm like, why would you do that? The acoustic sounds beautiful, and Behemoth did the same thing. Behemoth in Evangelion, they included some Spanish style guitar, but they had an ambience going and just kind of treated it as like a break with the acoustic to let it shine through and give it its classical nature. And it was just something that was almost gave it a more menacing aspect to it. Whereas when they try to add distortion to something like that, at least for me, it diminished what it was. I didn't even know what it was. If it had stayed as original nature, it would have been fascinating for me. So, unfortunately, there's another con. Overall, I didn't know how to feel about this album, because I was hoping for a lot more. Not to say that this was a terrible album by any means, but it's just knowing what I've heard of Lowell Burns Out, knowing what they're capable of, maybe this album just wasn't for me. But still, it was well done.
Sometimes I think your mixing whatever background is a curse for you.
Oh, it is. It's been ever since actually 10 years ago now, because 10 years ago was whenever I started that. But it's absolutely a curse, because I can hear everything, and I wish sometimes I don't. But
that's the way it is for me. Being through band, I can pick out any instrument within any sort of song and just listen to that alone. Mm-hmm. And it sometimes will ruin the song for me, because I can't focus on it in its entirety. I delve just specifically into one aspect of it or something. Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm pretty much going to the rating here, so I want you guys to notice, again, almost 3 minutes left. Anyways, so, again, pros, great guitar work, great vocals, great vocal performance, great drumming. Just, guys, you did fantastic. The cons, your production was not very good. For that, however, I'm still going to give this an 8. Because this was a very good album. Like, in the fundamentals and foundation of what it is. But for some people, I think they'll feel like it should be redone as far as the mixing goes. Or, hell, maybe this was collaborative effort and this is how you wanted it to be done. I don't know, but it wasn't particularly...
I wonder what they would sound like live.
I don't know. That's an interesting thought. But guys, again, this you've done well. Your craftsmanship is there. It's just a bad mix can make a great piece suffer. And for me, personally, this is what has happened here. But yet, God, I wish I could have the tracks. I wish I had access to the tracks to this, because I'd love to try and mix it myself and see what I could make of it. I'm just so curious now. Who knows? I might end up making it sound worse than what it currently is. It's always a possibility. And it could actually be really good. And I'm just like, well, I actually do suck. After 10 years of being an amateur hobbyist in this, I suck. But anyway, a solid 8. Just it can be difficult not to look back on a group's past and see where they came from, see what they're capable of, and then hear what feels like a decline or feels like a little lacklusterness. So yeah, unfortunately, it's an 8 for me, which honestly is still good. Just lower on my kind of scale, but it's still way better than average. It's still classifies as a great album. Not excellent, but a great album. But anyways, you guys have any more to say on this? Awesome.
Nope.
Well, as always, guys, we're glad you could be here with us. Find us in the comments. And as always, keep rolling heavy.